Catherine handed me the ultrasound at our anniversary dinner, 14 weeks pregnant. I'd been on field training for 6 of those weeks. The math didn't add up, but I'm getting ahead of myself. It started 3 weeks earlier. Tuesday morning, November 5th, 7:42 a.m., third coffee of the morning. My hands were steady on the keyboard. Compliance officers don't shake, we verify. Thompson and Associates, 16th floor, downtown Chicago. My office window faced the lake, gray November water stretching to the horizon. I was running my quarterly audit, routine, executive expense reports, travel reimbursements, corporate credit card statements. I'd done this 64 times in 16 years. My algorithm flagged anomalies the way it always did. Pattern recognition, statistical outliers, anything that didn't fit the norm. 17 flags this quarter. I almost deleted the report, almost closed the file and moved on to the next audit cycle. But there's a reason they pay compliance officers. We're the people who look when everyone else looks away. The spreadsheet was clean. White background, black text, my department's standard formatting. 84 pages spiral bound, fresh off the printer. The paper still smelled like toner. I flipped to page 47, expense anomalies, high-value transactions, meals for two, hotel suites, jewelry purchases. The initials column, KMC and RET, Catherine Marie Chen, my wife, Richard Edward Thompson III, her boss, the chief marketing officer, the founder's grandson. I stared at those letters, KMC and RET. My compliance algorithm had caught my wife's affair before I did. The office was empty, just me and the hum of the HVAC system. My coffee had gone cold. I set the report down, that specific sound spiral-bound documents make when they hit a desk, pages settling, and I counted my breaths. 1, 2, 3. Compliance training. When you find fraud, you document everything. You don't assume, you verify. You build the case piece by piece until the evidence is irrefutable. So I built the case. 6 high-value gifts over 4 months, meals at Morton's, RPM Steak, Gibson's, always for 2, always on Thursday evenings, hotel suites during marketing conferences, Miami, San Francisco, New York, and jewelry. Tiffany & Co., one purchase, $1,200, itemized as Corporate Recognition Award. I spent 16 years making sure every number added up. Turns out I forgot to check the most important equation. Did our marriage actually balance? My hands were still steady. That's the thing about being a compliance officer. You learn to compartmentalize. The numbers don't lie. The patterns don't care about your feelings. The algorithm just flags the anomalies and waits for you to decide what to do with them. I decided to keep looking. That night, Gibson's Steakhouse, our anniversary spot for 15 years. Same table, same waiter, same bottle of Chateau Neuf du Pape we ordered every November. Catherine wore red. She always wore red for our anniversaries. Her Mont Blanc pen sat next to her purse, black resin and platinum catching the candlelight. 15 years, she said, raising her glass. Can you believe it? I couldn't. Not anymore. I have a surprise, she said. Her smile was radiant. That's the word people always use for Catherine. Radiant. She reached into her purse and pulled out a folded piece of paper, thermals printout, slightly curled at the edges. She slid it across the white tablecloth. An ultrasound, 4 by 6 inches, grainy black and white image. Blue date stamp in the corner, September 18th, 2024. And at the top, patient information. I almost missed it. Almost. Catherine Morrison, not Chen, Morrison, her maiden name. I'm pregnant, she whispered, tears in her eyes. 14 weeks, Robert, it's a miracle. After all these years, we're going to have another baby. My training kicked in. Verify, build the case. Don't show your hand until you have all the evidence. That's incredible, I said. My voice sounded normal, practiced. When did you find out? 2 weeks ago. I wanted to wait until tonight to tell you, our anniversary. She reached across the table for my hand. I know we'd stopped trying. I know you had the vasectomy 5 years ago, but the doctor said sometimes the procedure reverses itself, I finished. It's rare, but it happens. It doesn't happen. I had the follow-up test. I'm sterile, completely. But I smiled. I squeezed her hand. I said all the right things, and I did the math. 14 weeks pregnant. Conception around July 12th. I pulled up my phone under the table, calendar app scrolling back, June 10th through July 22nd, advanced leadership training, Fort McCoy, Wisconsin. 6 weeks of field exercises, team building, strategic planning. I came home for the 4th of July weekend, 3 days. Then back to Wisconsin. Catherine said she got pregnant July 12th. I wasn't even home. Are you okay? She asked. You look pale. Just overwhelmed, I said. Wait, this is amazing news. She smiled again, touched the Mont Blanc pen absently, a habit I'd noticed lately. Her fingers traced the platinum trim. Richard gave the leadership team these pens last month, she said, following my gaze. Company recognition awards, aren't they beautiful? The company doesn't give Mont Blanc pens, but I nodded. I smiled. I raised my glass. To new beginnings, I said. We clinked glasses. The sound echoed in my ears like a bell tolling. That night, I couldn't sleep. Catherine was upstairs, peaceful, one hand on her stomach. I sat in my home office, laptop glowing in the dark. 11 p.m. The house was silent except for the old furnace clicking on and off. I Googled Meisterstück 149, $1,200. Mont Blanc's flagship model, the exact pen Catherine used every day, signing documents, writing grocery lists, addressing birthday cards. The pen she'd used to sign my anniversary card 3 hours earlier, to my rock, love always, K. I pulled up the audit report again. Page 61, Tiffany & Co.'s corporate credit card, Richard Edward Thompson III, September the 3rd, 2024, itemized description, Mont Blanc Meisterstück 149 engraved. I clicked through to the scanned receipt. The engraving was visible in the image. KM, for your success. RT3, Catherine Marie, for your success. Richard Edward Thompson III. The company doesn't give Mont Blanc pens. Thompson and Associates gives glass awards, plaques with logos, gift cards for Starbucks. We don't give $1,200 fountain pens with personal engravings, but Richard Edward Thompson III does. Every time Catherine wrote, I love you, with that pen, she was holding her lover's gift. Every grocery list, every birthday card, every note to our daughter Lily, written with the pen he gave her. I thought about all the times I'd admired it. That's a beautiful pen, I'd said once. You deserve it, she'd replied. If you've ever found evidence you didn't want to find, proof that changed everything, just type I know in the comments. Sometimes the hardest part isn't the betrayal. It's that moment when denial becomes impossible. You're not alone in that moment. The Mont Blanc pen sat on Catherine's desk upstairs, and I had to decide what to do next. I called David the next morning, Wednesday, 6 a.m. We'd been friends since he started in IT security 8 years ago, both of us the type who arrived before sunrise, left after dark, lived for the work nobody else wanted to do. I need a favor, I said, and if I'm wrong, we forget I ever asked. But you're not wrong, David said. His voice was flat. He already knew. We met at his apartment that night, door locked, blinds drawn, 2 laptops glowing on his kitchen table. David slid a USB drive across the surface. Black sand disk, 32 gigabytes, evidence label in his handwriting. I pulled the security footage, he said. Hospital section, executive parking, main entrances. My buddy in security owed me. He doesn't know why I asked. My hand hovered over the USB drive, plastic, cool to the touch. Once I plugged this in, once I watched whatever was on it, I couldn't unknow it. Denial would die completely. How many? I asked. 14 videos. Rob, you don't have to. I plugged in the drive. The first video loaded. Timestamp. August 15th, 2024, 2:47 p.m. Hospital supply closet, 3rd floor. Black and white footage, grainy but clear enough. Catherine, Richard, his hands on her waist, her hand in his hair. The way she tilted her head back, I knew that gesture. I'd seen it 1,000 times in our bedroom, in our kitchen, in quiet moments when she thought no one was watching. But I was watching now, and so was the camera. "This was during your Afghanistan trip," David said quietly. "Corporate training exchange program. You were gone for 2 weeks." I clicked to the next video. Parking lot, Catherine's car, passenger side, Richard leaning in through the window. A kiss, long, lingering, her hand cupping his face. Next video, his office, after hours. Lights dim, her sitting on his desk. His hands. "Stop," I said. My voice sounded strange, distant. "There are 12 more," David said. Supply closet, his office, her car, parking garage. The executive elevator logs show she's been using that key card you mentioned, 47 times in 6 months, accessing the 42nd floor after hours. 47 times. I thought about the black plastic card she carried now. Executive access. She'd been so proud when she got it. "Early morning meetings with the marketing leadership team," she'd said. "Richard wants to include me in strategy sessions." I'd been proud too. My wife, advancing in her career, getting recognition she deserved. But that key card didn't beep for marketing meetings. It beeped for Richard's floor, his office, his hands on her body in supply closets and parking lots and every other place the cameras caught them. "Rob," David started. "The phone records," I said. "Can you pull the phone records?" He looked at me for a long moment. Then he opened his second laptop. The company-issued cell phones came with tracking. Standard corporate policy. Thompson & Associates paid for the phones. We monitored usage for liability purposes. Text messages, call logs, data usage, everything logged in a database that IT security could access. David's fingers flew across the keyboard. Excel spreadsheet loaded on screen. 45 pages, color-coded by his analysis. Yellow, highlighting throughout. 1,247 text messages, David said, between Catherine's phone and Richard's phone over 18 months. 18 months. The affair didn't start this summer. It didn't start this year. It started in March 2023, Miami Conference, CMO Strategy Summit. The lanyard I'd found in her suitcase pocket, the one she'd said was just conference materials. David scrolled through the spreadsheet. Dates, times, message counts. Some days, 5 messages. Other days, 60. There were patterns, spikes during my business trips, lulls when I was home, but always there, background noise. The affair was the baseline of our marriage, and I'd been too busy making sure the numbers added up at work to notice the numbers didn't add up at home. "Rob," David said. His voice was careful, too careful. "There's a date range I need to show you." He highlighted a section. March 15th, 2024, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., 23 text messages. Catherine to Richard, Richard to Catherine. March 15th, my father's funeral. My hands went numb. "I'm sorry, brother," David whispered. "I'm so sorry." I reached into my pocket. My father's watch, vintage Omega Seamaster, steel case, leather band worn soft from 30 years of factory work. The watch had stopped at 3:42, the moment his heart gave out in the ICU. I'd been holding his hand. Catherine had been there too, standing behind me, her hand on my shoulder. I thought she'd been grieving with me. But according to the phone records, while I delivered my father's eulogy, while I stood at that pulpit and talked about sacrifice and duty and the immigrant who came to America with nothing and gave his son everything, Catherine was texting Richard. David clicked through the message timestamps. 2:14 p.m. "I miss you." 2:27 p.m. "Can't wait for Miami next month." 2:43 p.m. "These family things are so boring." I was burying my father, and Catherine was bored. I held the watch up to my ear, silent. Time stopped at 3:42, the second hand frozen, pointing at the 9. My father's time had run out while Catherine counted the minutes until she could text her lover again. "There are 13 more videos," David said. "Do you want to see them?" I thought about it. Thought about watching my wife's betrayal play out in 14 separate security camera angles. Thought about collecting evidence like I was auditing expense reports. Thought about how I'd spent 16 years making sure every number added up at Thompson and Associates. And I'd never once checked whether my marriage balanced. "Send me everything," I said. "All of it. The videos, the phone records, the expense reports, the security logs. I need it documented, every piece." "What are you going to do?" I looked at my father's watch, still stopped, still silent. "I'm going to make sure the numbers add up," I said. While I delivered my father's eulogy, Catherine sent Richard 23 texts. These family things are so boring. I was burying my father. She was bored. I confronted Catherine 3 days later. Saturday night, 10 p.m., our Lincoln Park condo, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Lily was at Northwestern, dorm life, studying for finals, blissfully unaware that her family was imploding. Catherine was in the kitchen, mint tea steaming in her favorite mug, scrolling through her phone. She smiled at the screen. That smile, I knew that smile now. "Catherine," my voice was steady, 16 years of compliance training. "We need to talk." She looked up, set down her phone face down on the granite countertop. "About what?" I placed the ultrasound on the counter between us. The thermal paper had curled more at the edges. Patient name clearly visible, Catherine Morrison. "Why is your name Morrison on this?" I asked. "Why not Chen?" She glanced at it, shrugged. "I must have given them my maiden name by accident. You know how it is at doctors' offices." "Which doctor?" I interrupted, "because I called your OB-GYN. Dr. Patterson's office. They said you haven't been in for 3 years. Her face went very still. "So, I'm curious," I continued. My voice was still calm, clinical. "Which doctor did you see? The one who wrote you that prenatal vitamin prescription on November 3rd? 2 weeks before you told me you were pregnant?" I placed the orange prescription bottle next to the ultrasound. CVS label, 90 count, date stamp clearly visible. Catherine's jaw tightened. "You've been spying on me?" "I've been verifying," I said. "There's a difference. I'm a compliance officer, Catherine. It's what I do." "This is insane." She stood, grabbed her phone. "You're being paranoid. The pregnancy hormones are making you—" "I had a vasectomy 5 years ago," I said. "I'm sterile. Completely. The follow-up test confirmed it. So unless you're claiming immaculate conception, someone else got you pregnant." She stared at me. The kitchen clock ticked. Our refrigerator hummed. "You're crazy," she whispered. "You're actually crazy." I pulled out the Miami conference lanyard, royal blue, CMO Strategy Summit, Miami 2024 in white text. I set it on the counter with the other evidence. "I found this in your suitcase," I said, "from March 2023. The trip where you and Richard stayed in adjoining hotel suites, rooms 4201 and 4203, connected by an interior door." Her hand went to her throat, an unconscious gesture, defensive. "I have the hotel records," I continued. "I have the credit card statements. I have security footage from our office building, 14 videos of you and Richard in supply closets, parking lots, his office after hours. I have phone records showing 1,247 text messages over 18 months. Robert, I have the texts you sent during my father's funeral." My voice cracked, just slightly. 23 messages while I was delivering his eulogy. You texted Richard that family things were boring. Catherine's face changed. The mask slipped. For just a moment, I saw something cold underneath. Then she recovered. "If you think you can use this against me, She started. I already am, I said. I'm filing for divorce, and I'm requesting a paternity test. Illinois law is very clear on fraud in marriage contracts. She grabbed the ultrasound, crumpled it slightly in her fist. You've been spying on me, she hissed. That's illegal, Robert. If you try to expose me, I'll tell HR you've been harassing me, using your compliance access to stalk your wife. Who do you think they'll believe? The VP of marketing who's pregnant? She smiled. Cruel. Or the obsessive husband with access to security systems? The woman I'd married for 15 years looked at me with a stranger's eyes. Get out of my way, she said. I'm going to bed. She walked past me. Her shoulder brushed mine. Hard. Intentional. I stood in the kitchen holding evidence that meant everything and nothing. Because Catherine was right about one thing. Richard Edward Thompson III had power. Corner office, 42nd floor, founder's grandson, and I was just the compliance officer. Richard called me into his office Monday morning, 10 a.m. Executive assistant showed me in, all smiles, all professional courtesy. The corner office was exactly what you'd expect. Mahogany desk, floor-to-ceiling windows, Lake Michigan, glittering blue, 42 stories below. And on his desk, in a silver Tiffany frame, a photo. Catherine and Richard, formal wear, her hand on his arm, his hand on her lower back. Too familiar, too intimate. Robert. Richard stood, extended his hand. Thanks for coming up. I didn't shake, just stood there. He withdrew his hand, sat back down, gestured to the chair across from him. Catherine told me about your concerns, he said. His voice was smooth, practiced. I want you to know we can work through this, quietly, professionally. Work through what? I asked. My wife's affair with her boss? Her pregnancy with your child? Richard flinched, barely, but I saw it. That's a very serious accusation, he said carefully. It's a very serious crime, I replied. Fraud, alienation of affection. Illinois still recognizes that tort, by the way. Did you know that? He leaned back in his leather chair, studied me. Then he opened his desk drawer and pulled out a white envelope, set it on the mahogany surface between us. I'm prepared to offer you $500,000, he said. The room went very quiet. 500,000, he repeated, to raise the child, to keep this quiet, to make this go away. Everyone wins, Robert. You get financial security. Catherine gets to keep her job. The baby gets a stable home. You get to walk away. I finished. My voice was flat. You get to knock up your subordinate and then pay someone else to deal with the consequences. I'm offering you an opportunity, Richard said. He leaned forward. Look where you sit, Robert. Look where I am. This is how the world works. You think you're going to win some moral victory? You'll lose your job. Catherine will lose hers. Your daughter will see her parents dragged through a public scandal. For what? Pride? He slid the envelope closer. Take the money, he said. Raise the kid. In 18 years, nobody will remember how this started. But if you fight me, if you try to expose this, I will bury you. I have lawyers. I have resources. I have my grandfather's name. He smiled. Cold. What do you have? Access to expense reports? I looked at the envelope. White paper, heavy stock, Thompson family crest embossed in the corner. $500,000. $500,000. More than I made in 3 years. The price Richard Edward Thompson III thought my dignity was worth. I stood. The world you live in, maybe, I said, and not mine. I walked to the door, stopped, turned back. You forgot something, I said. You told me to look where I sit. I did. I'm sitting in compliance. I have access to every financial record in this company, every expense report, every email, every security log. I smiled. You should have been more careful, Richard. His face went pale. See you at the shareholders' meeting, I said. I closed the door behind me. My hands were shaking, but my voice had been steady. Lily came home that weekend early. She wasn't supposed to be back until Thanksgiving, but she texted Friday afternoon, "Coming home tonight. Need to see you guys." I picked her up from the train station. She hugged me, tight, desperate, and I knew. Somehow she knew something was wrong. Saturday morning, I made her favorite breakfast. Blueberry pancakes, crispy bacon, fresh orange juice. The kitchen smelled like home, like the mornings when she was little and life was simple. Catherine was upstairs. "On a call," she'd said, but I could hear her laughing through the ceiling, soft, intimate, the laugh she used to save for me. Lily sat at the kitchen island watching me flip pancakes. She'd grown up so much, 18 years old, freshman at Northwestern, my daughter who wanted to change the world. She had my eyes, Catherine's smile, the best of both of us, or what used to be the best. "Dad," she said quietly, "is everything okay?" I set down the spatula. The pancakes sizzled on the griddle. "What makes you ask that?" I said. "Mom's different lately." Lily traced patterns on the granite countertop. "She's always on her phone. She smiles at it, and when you guys are in the same room, it's like..." She struggled for words. "It's like you're strangers." My chest tightened. "Lily, I'm 18, she interrupted. "I'm not a kid anymore. Something's wrong. I can feel it." Her voice dropped. "Please don't lie to me." I looked at my daughter, 18 years old enough to vote, to serve in the military, to make her own decisions, but still young enough that this would break something in her. Lily just asked if everything's okay. "Robert has two choices. If you were him, would you tell your 18-year-old daughter the full truth right now? Type truth. Or would you wait until you have all the evidence and filed for divorce? Type wait. What would you do? There's no right answer here. Some of you said truth. Some said wait. I get both. The truth can hurt, but so can lies. Here's what I chose." "Lily," I said, "sit down. We need to talk." Her face crumbled before I finished the first sentence. I drove to my mother's apartment that afternoon, Chinatown, same building she'd lived in for 35 years. Tiny one-bedroom, fourth-floor walk-up, windows overlooking Shermack Road. The whole place smelled like jasmine tea and the ginger she kept growing on the windowsill. Margaret Chen opened the door before I knocked. She always knew. "Robert, she said, using the Mandarin suffix the way she did when I was small. "Come in." We sat at her kitchen table, the same table where I'd done homework as a kid, where she'd taught me to fold dumplings, where she'd held me after my father died. She poured tea, green tea, the good kind, and waited. My mother was 68, retired now, but she still had hands like steel from 40 years cleaning office buildings at night so I could go to college during the day. Immigrant hands, sacrifice hands. "Mama," I said, "Catherine's pregnant." She nodded, sipped her tea. "It's not mine," I continued. "It's her boss's, Richard Thompson's." My mother set down her cup. The porcelain made a soft sound against the wood. "What will you do?" she asked. "I'm filing for divorce. I'm exposing them both. Richard offered me $500,000 to keep quiet and raise the child. And you said no." It wasn't a question. I said no, I confirmed. Margaret nodded again, reached across the table and gripped my hand. Her skin was wrinkled, spotted with age, but her grip was iron. "Roberta," she said, "I need to tell you something. When your father deployed to Iraq, before you were born, I almost left him." I stared at her. "I was lonely," she continued. Her voice was steady, strong. "Scared. There was a man at work, American man. He paid attention, made me feel seen." She looked at me. "But I didn't. You know why?" I shook my head. "Because I looked at your father's photo, and I remembered what duty means, what honor means." She squeezed my hand harder. "Catherine didn't remember. That's not your failure. That's hers." My throat closed. "You think you failed because you worked hard," Margaret said. "Because you provided. Because you did everything right." She switched to Mandarin. You cannot control other people's honor, Robert, only your own. I put my head in my hands and I cried. For the first time since my father's funeral, I cried. My mother held my hand and let me break. Monday morning, a woman contacted me through LinkedIn, Simone Jackson, Catherine's former assistant. The message was brief. I need to talk to you about Catherine and Richard. It's important. We met at a coffee shop in the Loop, 6 a.m. before work. Simone arrived nervous, checking over her shoulder, hands shaking around her paper cup. Thank you for meeting me, she said. I wasn't sure if I should reach out, but... She paused. I couldn't live with myself if I didn't. You worked for Catherine, I said, for 2 years, until she fired me 3 months ago. Simone's voice was bitter. She said I was underperforming, but really I'd seen too much. Tell me, I said. Simone pulled out her phone, scrolled through photos, stopped on a hotel receipt. She slid the phone across the table. March 2023, she said. Miami conference. Catherine told me to book her hotel room. She was very specific. Suite 4201, next to Richard's suite 4203, connected by an interior door. The receipt showed both rooms, charged to the corporate card. 2 suites, 1 night, $2,300. I booked 6 more trips like that, Simone continued. Miami, San Francisco, New York, Seattle, Austin, Denver. Every time adjoining suites. Every time corporate card. She looked at me. I'm sorry. I should have told you sooner, but I needed the job. And Catherine... She trailed off. Catherine is very good at making people afraid, I finished. She threatened me, Simone whispered. Said if I ever talked about what I saw, she'd make sure I never worked in marketing again. Said Richard would blacklist me. Her hands shook harder. But then she fired me anyway, so I have nothing left to lose. I pulled out my notebook, the same notebook I used for compliance audits. Tell me everything, I said. Every trip, every meeting, every time you saw them together. I need dates, times, locations, everything. Simone talked for an hour. I documented everything. By the time we finished, the sun was up. The coffee shop was filling with the morning rush. And I had one more witness, one more piece of evidence. The affair didn't start last year. It started during the Miami conference, March 2023, 18 months ago, and Simone Jackson was ready to testify. The company holiday party was December 15th, Grand Ballroom, Thompson Tower, 8th floor, 800 employees, open bar, Christmas decorations, CEO speech, executive table in the front. I had to go, had to smile, had to pretend. Catherine wore red. She always wore red. Her pregnancy wasn't showing yet, 14 weeks, still early, but she touched her stomach constantly, protective, maternal. The Mont Blanc pen was in her purse. I saw it when she reached for her phone. We stood together for photos. The company photographer circled, clicking away. Catherine's hand on my arm, my hand on the small of her back. We looked perfect. The ideal couple. 15 years of marriage, baby on the way, both successful at Thompson and Associates. We looked like everything I thought we were. Richard gave a speech. He stood at the podium, champagne glass in hand, smile bright. To another successful year, he said, to the Thompson family, to all of you who make this company great. 800 people applauded. Catherine's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, smiled. That smile. Excuse me, I whispered. I need the restroom. She nodded, distracted, already texting. I walked through the ballroom, past the Christmas tree, 12 feet tall, white lights, silver ornaments, past the bar where David stood with the IT team, past the executive table where Richard held court. The bathroom was empty, white marble, gold fixtures, floor-to-ceiling mirrors. I locked myself in a stall, leaned against the cold metal door. In my suit jacket pocket folded precisely divorce papers. My lawyer had drafted them Friday. 84 pages. evidence exhibits attached. I hadn't signed them yet. Outside the bathroom, Christmas music played. Silver Bells, Catherine's favorite Christmas song. Inside, I held divorce papers and tried to remember how to breathe. I spent 16 years making sure every number added up. I'd forgotten to check the most important equation. And now here I was, standing in a bathroom stall at the company holiday party, holding the paperwork that would end my marriage while 800 colleagues celebrated outside. Catherine's phone had buzzed. She'd smiled. I knew that smile. My hands were shaking. The divorce papers crinkled in my grip. Outside, Christmas music. Inside, everything breaking. I whispered the words I'd been thinking for weeks. I spent 16 years making sure every number added up. Turns out some people's math is just fraud from the start. I couldn't finish. Just stood there, breathing, counting, trying not to fall apart. The bathroom door opened. Someone came in, used the sink, left. The music got louder for a moment. Jingle Bell Rock now. Then muffled again as the door closed. I looked at the divorce papers. Black ink on white paper. Legal language. Clean lines. Everything documented. Everything proven. I signed them. My signature was steady. Compliance officers don't shake. But my reflection in the stall door's metal surface showed something else. A man who'd spent 16 years building a life on numbers that never balanced. I folded the papers, put them back in my pocket, straightened my tie, then I walked back into the party, smiled, shook hands, raised my glass when Richard made another toast. And Catherine never knew that in that bathroom stall, while Christmas music played, I'd just signed the papers that would destroy everything. I filed for divorce on December 18th, 3 days after the holiday party. 3 days after signing those papers in a bathroom stall while Christmas music played. My lawyer's office was on Lakeshore Drive, 28th floor. Melissa Grant had been practicing family law for 19 years. She'd seen everything, but when I walked in with my evidence box, she raised an eyebrow. "That's quite a collection," she said. I set the box on her conference table. Spiral-bound audit report, 84 pages, USB drive with security footage, printed phone records, 45 pages, color-coded, hotel receipts, credit card statements, expense reports, the ultrasound with Catherine's maiden name, medical records proving my vasectomy. "I'm a compliance officer," I said. "Documentation is what I do." Melissa opened the audit report, flipped through pages, stopped on page 47, the expense anomalies, the initials, the pattern I'd flagged months ago. She looked up at me, then she smiled. "Robert," she said, "you didn't just catch them, you documented them like it was your job." She paused, because it was. For the first time in 8 weeks, I smiled back. We spent 3 hours going through everything. Melissa took notes, legal pad, fountain pen, precise handwriting. She asked questions. I provided answers, dates, times, locations. Every piece of evidence cross-referenced and verified. "Illinois is a no-fault divorce state," she explained, "but infidelity affects property division and maintenance, and this," she tapped the audit report, "this is corporate fraud. Misuse of company resources for personal affairs. That's a separate issue." "I'm filing an ethics complaint with the board," I said, "separately from the divorce." "Good," Melissa said. "Keep them separate. The divorce is personal. The ethics complaint is professional. Don't let Richard's lawyers claim you're using company resources for personal revenge." She pulled out a fresh legal pad, started drafting. "We'll file for divorce citing irreconcilable differences. We'll attach the evidence as exhibits for property division purposes. We'll request a paternity test." She looked up. "You understand that once we prove you're not the father, you have no legal obligation to this child." "I understand," I said, "and Catherine will fight this. She'll claim the timeline is wrong. She'll say the vasectomy failed. She'll lose," I interrupted, "because the numbers don't lie." Melissa looked at the evidence spread across her conference table, the audit report with my signature, the phone records with timestamps, the security footage with date stamps. No, she agreed, they don't. She slid the divorce petition across the table, 84 pages. Evidence exhibits attached. A perfect mirror of my compliance audit, the professional document that had exposed the personal betrayal. Sign here, she said. I'd already signed once, in a bathroom stall, hands shaking. This time my hand was steady. Compliance officers don't shake. The board received my ethics complaint on December 20th. 23 pages, formal language. Every violation cited with supporting documentation. Misuse of corporate resources. Inappropriate relationship with subordinate. Expense fraud. Security access violations. I didn't name Catherine. The complaint was about Richard Edward Thompson III, Chief Marketing Officer, grandson of the founder, the man who thought his name could protect him from consequences. The board scheduled an emergency meeting for January 3rd, right after New Year's, right before the shareholders' meeting where Richard was supposed to be named president. But on December the 23rd, my phone rang. Unknown number, Chicago area code. Robert Chen, I answered. Mr. Chen, this is James Thompson. I froze. Not Richard, not Richard's father. James Thompson Sr., the founder's son. The chairman of the board, 76 years old, the man who'd built Thompson & Associates from a small accounting firm into a Fortune 500 company. Mr. Thompson, I said carefully, how can I help you? I read your ethics complaint, he said. His voice was gravelly, tired. I'd like to discuss it with you, in person. Are you available this afternoon? Yes, sir. My office, 2 p.m. He hung up. James Thompson Sr.'s office was on the 45th floor, 3 floors above Richard's corner office. The elevator ride felt like climbing to judgment. His assistant showed me in. The office was old school, dark wood, leather chairs, walls lined with photos spanning 5 decades. James Thompson, shaking hands with mayors, governors, presidents, Thompson and Associates through the years, and on his desk my ethics complaint, pages spread out, yellow highlighter marks throughout. Mr. Chen, James stood, shook my hand. His grip was firm. Thank you for coming. Thank you for seeing me, sir. He gestured to a chair. I sat. He sat across from me, the desk between us. I've known Richard since he was born, James said without preamble. He's my grandson, my only grandson. He paused, and reading this complaint broke my heart. I said nothing, just waited. This isn't the first time, James continued. His voice was quiet, ashamed. 5 years ago, Richard worked in our Boston office. Different position, different title, same behavior. He looked at me. There was a woman, marketing coordinator. He had an affair, got her pregnant. We moved him here to Chicago to start fresh, to give him another chance. My stomach dropped. We paid the woman, James said. A settlement, confidentiality agreement. We thought... He stopped, took off his glasses, rubbed his eyes. We thought we were protecting the family name, protecting the company, but we weren't protecting anyone. We were enabling him. He put his glasses back on, looked at the complaint again. Your wife is pregnant, he said. With Richard's child, I confirmed. Yes, sir. And he offered you money. $500,000 to raise the child and keep quiet. James closed his eyes. When he opened them, they were wet. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. My grandson has done this before. We moved him here to start fresh. I see now that was a mistake. We should have... His voice broke. We should have held him accountable the first time. He stood, walked to the window, 45 stories up. Lake Michigan stretched, endless and gray. The board meets January 3rd, he said. But I don't need to wait for their vote. I'm the chairman. I'm also the majority shareholder. He turned back to me. I'm giving Richard a choice. He can resign by Monday, or I'll fire him with cause on Tuesday. Sir, your wife will also need to find new employment, James continued. His voice was steady now, resolved. Not fired, but her VP title will be quietly eliminated. Reorganization. She'll have 90 days to find another position, internal or external, with full severance and benefits. He walked back to his desk, picked up my ethics complaint. This goes in the company records, he said, sealed, but documented. So if Richard ever tries this again anywhere, there's a paper trail. He looked at me. I built this company on integrity, James said. My father built it on integrity, and I will not let my grandson destroy that, no matter how much it costs me personally. I thought about the $500,000 Richard had offered, the price of silence, the cost of complicity. And I thought about James Thompson Sr., 76 years old, choosing to expose his own grandson because integrity mattered more than family pride. Thank you, I said. My voice was rough. Thank you for doing the right thing. No, James said. Thank you for making me do it. I told Lily everything on Christmas morning. Catherine had moved out 3 days earlier, checked into a hotel. Her lawyer had advised no contact until the divorce proceedings began, so it was just me and Lily in our condo. Christmas tree in the corner. We decorated it together 2 weeks ago before everything exploded. Lights twinkling, ornaments we'd collected over 18 years. I made breakfast, blueberry pancakes again, her favorite. The kitchen smelled like butter and warmth and every Christmas morning we'd ever had. Lily sat at the island, watching me, silent. I need to tell you everything, I said, the whole truth. No more partial answers. She nodded, set down her orange juice. I told her all of it. The audit report, the affair, the pregnancy, the timeline that proved it wasn't mine, the security footage, the phone records, the text during Grandpa's funeral, Richard's bribe, the divorce filing, the ethics complaint. I showed her the ultrasound with Catherine's maiden name. Explained what it meant, that her mother had been planning this for months, seeing a different doctor, using the one Richard's family preferred. I showed her the Miami conference lanyard, explained the adjoining hotel suites. I didn't show her the security footage. I didn't tell her every graphic detail. She was 18, but she was still my daughter. Some things she didn't need to see. When I finished, Lily stood, walked to the window. Chicago skyline, bright with winter morning sun. For 3 full minutes she said nothing, just stared out at the city. I waited, counted my breaths, let her process. Finally, she turned back. I want to live with you, Dad, she said. Her voice was steady, clear. And I need therapy. Can we do that together? My throat closed. Yes, I managed. Yes, baby, we can do that together. She walked to me, wrapped her arms around my waist, pressed her face against my shoulder. She was 18 years old and tall now, almost my height. But in that moment, she was small again. My little girl who used to think I could fix anything. I'm sorry, I couldn't fix this, I whispered into her hair. You did fix it, she said. You told the truth. That's how you fix things. We stood there, holding each other, while the Christmas tree lights blinked and the pancakes went cold and everything broken started slowly to heal. Robert and Lily chose honesty over comfort. They chose truth over performance, and they're rebuilding their family, not on who they're supposed to be, but on who they actually are. If you've ever had to rebuild your life on truth instead of lies, tell me about it in the comments. What did you learn? What would you tell someone just starting that journey? And if this story moved you, if you stayed for all 60 minutes, consider subscribing. I tell stories about people who chose integrity when it cost them everything. I'll see you in the next one. 6 months later, Willis Tower, 44th floor, my new office, compliance director at Whitmore Financial Group, Thompson & Associates' biggest competitor. They'd offered me the position in February. Bigger title, bigger salary, bigger office. Most importantly, 2 floors higher than Richard's old corner office. The view from my window was Lake Michigan, endless blue, boats cutting white lines across the water, June sunshine, summer in Chicago. The city felt new again. On my desk, 3 things. First, a framed photo of Lily at Northwestern, May graduation from freshman year. She was smiling, really smiling. We'd been going to therapy together every Wednesday evening, learning how to talk, how to trust, how to build a family on truth instead of performance. Second, my compliance audit report from Thompson and Associates, the one that had started everything. I'd had it framed, glass, black wood, mounted on my wall behind my desk, a reminder. The paper trail always tells the truth that people try to hide. Third, my father's watch. The Omega Seamaster sat on my wrist where it had for 3 years. Steel case, leather band, crystal scratch from decades of factory work, but now it was running. I'd had it repaired in March. The jeweler said it just needed cleaning, new battery, some minor adjustments. Good watch, he'd said, built to last, just needed someone to take care of it. The second hand swept around the face, smooth, continuous, time moving forward, tick, tick, tick. The sound of healing. My phone buzzed, Lily calling. I checked the time, 3:42 p.m., the exact moment my father's heart had stopped, the moment the watch had frozen, but now 3:42 was just another moment. Time didn't stop anymore. It kept moving. I answered, "Hey, Dad," Lily said. "Just finished my summer internship interview. I think it went really well." "That's great, baby. Tell me about it." She talked for 15 minutes, excited, happy, whole. When we hung up, I sat back in my chair, 44th floor, Lake Michigan stretching blue and endless, my father's watch ticking on my wrist. I thought about Catherine. Last I heard, she'd married Richard in February. Quiet ceremony, no announcement. The baby was due in 2 weeks, mid-June. They'd moved to a suburb, away from the city, away from Thompson and Associates, away from the scandal. I hoped the child would be okay. I hoped they'd be better parents than they'd been people, but that wasn't my responsibility anymore. I thought about Richard. He'd resigned December 27th. No fanfare, just a brief email to staff. Pursuing other opportunities. Thompson and Associates stock had barely moved. Turned out the company didn't need the founder's grandson as much as he'd thought. I thought about James Thompson Sr. He'd called me in March just to check in. "How are you doing, Robert?" he'd asked. I told him about the new job, the therapy with Lily, the watch repair. He'd said, "Good. That's good. You deserve to move forward." I thought about my mother, Margaret Chen, 68 years old, retired office cleaner, immigrant who'd sacrificed everything so her son could have a better life. She'd been right. You cannot control other people's honor, only your own. And I thought about the man I'd been 6 months ago, standing in Thompson and Associates, 16th floor, running a compliance audit, thinking he knew how the numbers added up. I'd been wrong, but I'd learned. I spent 16 years making sure every number added up. I'd worked late nights, early mornings, weekends, holidays. I'd documented every expense, every transaction, every pattern. I'd been meticulous, thorough, perfect. But I'd forgotten to check the most important equation, not whether the corporate books balanced, whether my life balanced, not whether the audit was clean, whether my marriage was honest, not whether the numbers added up at work, whether my values added up at home. Turns out some people's math is fraud from the start. You can't audit integrity into someone. You can't verify honor. You can't document love. But you can choose to live by your own numbers, your own equations, your own balance sheet. And when you look at your life, really look at it, the way a compliance officer looks at a spreadsheet, you can ask yourself one simple question. Do your numbers match your values? Mine do now. My father's watch ticked on my wrist. 3:43 p.m., time moving forward, the second hand sweeping around the face, continuous, steady, alive. Outside my window, Lake Michigan sparkled. Boats cut white lines across blue water. The city hummed with summer afternoon traffic. Life happened, time passed, the world kept spinning, and for the first time in 6 months, I felt something close to peace. The paper trail had told the truth. The evidence had spoken. Justice, imperfect, incomplete, but real, had been served. And I was free. I looked at the framed audit report on my wall. 84 pages. The document that had destroyed my marriage and saved my integrity. Then I looked at Lily's photo, smiling, whole, choosing truth. Then I looked at my father's watch, running, healing, moving forward. I spent 16 years making sure every number added up. Turns out the only equation that matters is, do your numbers match your values? Mine do now, and that's the only audit that counts.